Hi, my name's Tom Whitaker. I'm the president and owner of Mr. ShowerDoor. Today we are going over how to evaluate a shower door hinge. A few simple steps. One would be to grasp the hinge in your hands and twist it over to its side. If the hinge can easily flip over to its side, that's not a good thing. You want a hinge that wants to index in a strong manner. Another way of evaluating a hinge would be that this hinge, when you flick it over to the side, that it bounces back to a perfect 90-degree condition to the hinge plate. That's important for alignment of the door in the closed position. Another important thing is the thickness of the rubber gasket. If the gasket is too thick, over time it'll compress under the pressure of the plate, and as it compresses it, it'll lose some of its grip. So the thinner, the better. Less likely it's going to compress and lose grip. Another way of evaluating a hinge is to look at the cover plate, the thickness of the cover plate. If the hinge plate is too thin, when the screws are torqued down, it may have a slight deflection in it and lose some of its grip in the process. One way to evaluate a hinge is to look carefully at the surface and how it's treated. If it's a nickel, does it have a clear coat on it? If it's a polished brass, is it done with a PVD or a very durable surface? If it's an oil rub bronze, does it have a clear coat on it or a protective covering on it? Have any of these been tested in salt spray chambers to see the longevity of it? Does the manufacturer guarantee any aspect of the surface? Another thing to look at is the wall plate. There's several different trains of thought on the wall plate. Some of them are full back, some are short back. A short back would be so you can get the glass to go closer to the wall than a full back plate would allow you to do. Some manufacturers make them with scalloped areas where the glass could get, in theory, closer to the wall. It's all a matter of preference and to make sure that the manufacturer you're evaluating has all the options you need. Another evaluation would be Mickey Mouse hinges versus non-Mickey Mouse. The example I have here is a non-Mickey Mouse. If you have Mickey Mouse ears, are they detachable? Mickey Mouse ears are good in that they do make the glass so it can't outrightly dislodge from the hinge. A drawback to the Mickey Mouse hinge is you lose some surface contact area when you have the Mickeys. And surface contact area is important to being able to grip a piece of glass. Different schools of thought on that one. That would be something to consider when you take a hinge apart. The next thought is what's inside of a hinge. When you take a hinge apart, the pin, which is the part that runs through, has a set of set screws that hold the pin from being able to move. It's critical for the pin to have pressure screws to keep the pin in place. These pressure screws are notorious for loosening, and that's where you'll get the clicking sound in a hinge. When these loosen up, as the hinge moves, the pin rocks back and forth and causes a clicking. It's important that these are manufactured with the highest grade Loctite that you can use, and that will stop these from backing out, loosening up, and getting clicking. The next part that's important is the springs and the plungers. The plungers should fit tightly inside the bore, and it's ideal to have plungers that are not made out of plastic like these. Plastic tends to cup and wear when it goes around the cam. Metal plungers are always better than the plastic type. And how they fit inside this is also important. Inside of this one is the better metal ones, and that part is fitting very snugly inside of the shaft. Another consideration is the springs. You want to have a spring that has a lot of the spring coil is not too tightly wound, and it's not too much of a short hinge. You want the hinge to actually be able to have travel. That stops the hinge from compressing too frequently and putting wear on the hinge and wearing it out quickly. Or spring bind is another term for it. Another thing to look at is the hinge body. Most hinges that are made by the large manufacturers are drop forged, which is the better way to do it. Some of the very, very inexpensive offshore hinges right now are made out of die castings. If you took the die casting and you were to hit it lightly with a hammer, you could break off a part of it. So be wary of that. Drop forge is always better. Several schools of thought on the screws. There's Phillips heads, there's Allen screws, there's slotted ones. Most people, I think, prefer the Allen screws. Some people, if they have the right tools, will prefer these. The size of the screw head is important. It helps put more pressure on the plate. You can see that both of these are the same size, but I've seen smaller than that. Another thing, if you look very closely on this hinge, in the right light, you'll see a crease along the tram. The crease is what's happened when this hinge has been opened too far and it's dented the tram. Most good hinges will have a nylon bumper built into the hinge to prevent this kind of denting.